wicked deed done by humanity. He took upon himself when he suffered and died on the cross. It was shame. The horror of Auschwitz, the evils of Stalin, Pol Pot, and Saddam Hussein, the atrocities of Rwanda, the silent slaughter of tens of millions of aborted children, the maximum depth of each of us of sinful thoughts that we already always have, right? The full extent of our reckless actions all were piled upon Jesus on that cross that day. In fact, his death personified shame. In the volume, in his volume, The Execution of Jesus Christ by William Riley, he wrote something which is very interesting. He says, not only was the cross the most painful death, it was also considered the most debasing. The condemned man was stripped naked and left exposed in his agony, and often the Romans even denied burial to the victim, allowing his body to hang on the cross until it disintegrated. It is understandable that, according to Jewish law, anyone who was crucified was considered cursed. Jesus experienced shame on the cross for you and for me. Basically, to be cursed is to suffer shame. There's often this agony and this cruelty that is connected with shame. And that is really what I want to talk to you about today. Because shame runs deeper than guilt. Guilt typically remains a private affair, right? We learn to keep our inner indictments to ourselves from the public safely. We tuck it in, put it into the place where people can't see. But the tough stuff of shame follows us everywhere we go, right? I mean, it's like a bad rap sheep. You can't get anywhere from that. Shame straps you to your past, putting everything on display, right? Private shame, the shame that comes from years of abuse, be it physical or sexual abuse, or the lonely suffering that emerges from disabilities such as maybe speech impediments or anxiety or eating disorders or a prison sentence or maybe time spent in a mental institution or a rehab. Really, maybe you're suffering from some kind of drug addiction and you go to rehab. That's a shame that comes from that, right? People feel that, and when they say that, it's like it pushes them to the corner of the room, like it pushes them into the shadows of society. Shame becomes a relentless accusing voice that whispers, you are no good, right? You don't mean anything. You are totally unworthy. You have no value. You will never make it. You will never amount to anything. You blew it. You are finished. That is what shame does. Shame penetrates deeper than embarrassment. It cuts wider than embarrassment. People sagging under the burden of shame to retreat into a sort of a living death, and which ultimately leads to suicidal ideation. Being the lowest form of self-hatred, shame has driven many people to those points where they just want to take their lives. Today,